I'm here.
Okay, so we were just sharing because Friday is kind of like an open mic, open participation kind of day. Woo! We were talking about nasty monsters and adversaries, kind of like Harry Potter when you're talking about the thing that shall not be named or the evil that shall not be named and so on. And no lie, I walked in here to crank up the screen. And what you're witnessing here in the lower right-hand corner, I just powered on the system, and within, what, 60 seconds, guys?
Yep, pretty much.
Within 60 seconds, you'll notice this little red dot at the bottom system. You know, I just powered the machine on from a cold, this was a cold boot. There was a Dell logo on the screen. They're my witness. We were talking about how important it is to use virtual machines when we're doing crazy things. In another class for virtual labs, they're going to see more and more of that. In this class, you're going to use virtual machines to do network forensics. You're going to want to be able to roll that thing back like a time machine.
Way back.
And I promised one of our students who sustained a recent data loss that we were not going to discuss his case in open forum. But I'm just saying that a virtual machine, if it were your thing, and you could have snapshots every now and then, would be something you could roll back to in the event of a catastrophic change, just saying, and no names mentioned. So this morning is about no names, all around, right? We have a monster whose name shall not be spoken right down here. And it is always an issue. Now, why is this relevant for network forensics? I want to share this with you real quick. There are times you have goofy stuff on your network and you're wondering, what is going on my network? Why is this not working? What's one of the things, as a reflex, you should check? Do I have updates in play? Is there firmware that's trying to post to my Wi-Fi router? Are there other things that are, is there a boss at this level of my game, and the boss is going to kick my teeth in? So, in the interest of brevity and levity on a Friday where we try to do more hands-on and we try to lay our hair back a little bit, I captured this monster without a name and saved this image next to another image I captured not too long ago, and it's called WTF2. And yeah, okay, maybe that's not that funny, but anyway.
Well, that's Friday too.
All right, so where are we going next? Our goal today is to ask those present, and this is, I'm going to stop recording and I'm going to stop recording because I don't want this to be on the YouTube. But I am going to put the rest of this on the YouTube. Okay. So now we've resumed recording. I do want to announce that at least 3 of our students would appreciate an extension of the deadline for your first attempt of the Module 1 assessment. That being the case, I will do this for you one time. I realized that we did have some delays posting the test, and that 24 hours, roughly 24 hours, is a little bit of a tight fuse. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that going into the future modules that we make every effort to give you at least 48 hours to, this was kind of a rare circumstance, but I stand before you again, sharing the unlikely and unexpected havoc that has been wreaked upon us this week by spontaneous and WTF kinds of updates that require a reboot all of a sudden. And you'll notice my system tray is still showing the necessity to reboot, despite the fact that I powered it on from a cold status when I walked in the room with 2 of our students as a witness. They saw this. 60 seconds later, here's this Oh my gosh, the boss in this level is kicking my tail this week. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and change the due date so that it reads 23 and 11:59 p.m. We'll send out, we check the box to send a new alert, so hopefully everybody knows. What I'd like to do now is pivot and talk about the magic. Because of my status, it would be unwise for me to demonstrate live the creation of a DNS server using Microsoft Server 2022 Standard Edition on this machine. The other problem is that you can usually only use your activation key once. And unless you have a data center edition loaded on your machine here and you have gobs of RAM and gobs of disk space and gobs of multi-core, multi-socket processor resources on your system, meaning you have a data center kind of system, you can load and increase and improve and replicate and duplicate and be fruitful and multiply all of your virtual servers in standard edition mode using an unlimited key. But the problem with using that on a standard machine is that the standard machine doesn't have the hardware resources to support more than 2 or 3 standard servers. So I'm in a classroom machine that has 16 gigs of RAM and about 4 physical processors. And so there we go. So what I'm going to do is ask for a volunteer. I'm going to ask for a volunteer because I only have 16 gigs of memory. And if I'm demonstrating concepts that have to do with virtual machines and there's any kind of server in the mix, then what happens is I'm pushing graphics information at the rate of 30 frames a second and high def 1920 by 1080p. And I'm also capturing this stuff because I'm recording, right? So that's why I'm using so much memory. I don't want something to flop. Again, in the middle of a demo, I'm supposed to post out on YouTube. So I'd like to ask one of you, if you have not utilized your Microsoft Server Standard license, is anyone willing to volunteer to install? And you're pretty sure you haven't?
Pretty sure I haven't used it yet.
So Jadel, Jadel, would you be willing to? All right, so here's the catch. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a virtual box. We're going to create a virtual box instance of Jadel's Microsoft Server 2022 Standard Edition license. We're going to use that to create a server virtual machine. We're going to configure the DNS role. It'll be a standalone server. We're going to transfer the role. We're going to transfer the virtual machine. After he creates it, we're going to put it on a big thumb drive and move it to the Hall of Fame of virtual machines around the corner down the hall, where we have machines capable of sustaining life support on that little baby for as long as necessary. So if we need heart-lung machines or all those extra things to keep it resuscitating as power surges and storms and all that kind of stuff disrupt power and data. Basically, he can create the equivalent of a community DNS server, which can bless each of your households. This does not prevent you from doing likewise and building your own DNS server, which you can host here on campus for your own personal use in your home. Or you can set it up and run it from your home. So the goal is to walk through that process and then watch the magic happen. We're going to provision. Here's the fun part. If I had a champagne bottle, I would take that champagne bottle and I would break it somewhere in the vicinity of Jadel, because we're going to christen his virtual machine like it's the newest ocean liner. And basically, we're going to give it a hallowed place in the Virtual Machine Hall of Fame so that each of you can glean the benefits immediately. And we're going to provision a resource that was acquired by the University of the Virgin Islands some 30 years ago. It'll have its own custom private IP address at a time where version 4 IP addresses on the public network ran out. There are no more. But Jadell's system, for time immortal, will have its very own dedicated public IP address. And he'll be able to do things with that. His grandkids will be able to do things with that in the future. And that's where we're headed in this class. So we're going to be setting up some network infrastructure. We want to create kind of more like a corporate or enterprise environment, right? And we want to start doing the first aspect of split DNS, because we want you to go ahead and work your network forensics skill sets across the semester. And what we do is we get into deeper water and deeper water and deeper water, okay? So now we're up to our waist in the salt water on the west end of St. Croix, and west is best, just saying.
Absolutely right.
I'm going to stop sharing, and what I'd like is for Jadell to share his screen. Are there any comments, observations, questions? Oh, and if we should lose this Zoom session mid-recording spontaneously, it's this little monster down here, and I didn't do it. I'm just telling you all up front. All right, so if all of a sudden we lose the screen, that's yeah, I don't want to tell you. All right, I'm also going to turn on the screen in the classroom so you can see big screen. Go ahead, Jadell.
All right.
What we'll do is walk Jadell through the creation process. So you already have the ISO downloaded, because you were going to have that, if I'm not mistaken, for one of the previous assignments, yeah?
I'm trying to remember which one that is.
Okay, well, let's get it started so it's downloading if you don't have it right away. It's going to be the Server 2022 Standard Edition. Go ahead and click on that, please. And then go ahead and scroll down. There was actually an update in July of 2023, so the ISO that you have from last year is no longer good.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, which is why you might want to download it now. Go ahead and click download.
Download it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, 2 hours. What? Oh.
Yeah, hopefully the rate of data transfer will be a little faster, so we don't have to, oh, look at it go. Now we're like 20 megabytes per second.
So, question, right?
Yes.
If you run the actual OS updates on your VM
Uh-huh.
from the previous ISO, do you still need to download the latest one?
That's a wonderful question. Luke has asked, for those of you who are joining us remotely. Oh, and there's Milan. For those of you who are joining us remotely, what you can do is run the updates and then compare the build numbers and the version of the OS with the new release that's come out. So it could be that the new version that's come out in July of 2023 already incorporates the version incrementals and the feature releases. They're called feature releases or feature packs, right? So when you get whole new kernels, you get a whole new version of the operating system. When I say version of the operating system, I am referring to this little ditty here inside the system about here. I'm talking about this number. So the version number is, in this case, 22H2. You want to know both. You want to know both the version and the build number of the version. Okay. So to answer your question, Luke, it's likely that if your updates posted correctly, you would have the same version and OS build of that version as the new release. There are cases where the adversaries of our digital universe like to muck things up so badly that you can't fix what's broken. So when they come out with a new version, sometimes they have to, because you can't go any further. That's an excellent thing to assess, because as Microsoft and all software publishers come out with major new releases, and make no mistake about it, when there's a feature release and a new version of the OS, you are talking about a whole new OS. You're talking about a new kernel altogether. Just like when you're talking about mountain lion and cougar and leopard, snow leopard, Monterey, Big Sur, all you Mac fans out there would know what I'm talking about, right? Kind of, sort of, maybe?
Yeah.
Those are really old versions. But when you get a new one, that's like getting a whole new Mac sometimes, because the kernel of that operating system is finely tuned and it forklifts a lot of stuff out. Now, I know that was quite a lengthy answer, but I'm expounding because we're waiting on the download.
Oh, yeah, no, this baby's not moving at all.
Yeah, that's gonna take a while.
So that's not gonna happen quick. Okay. Do you have the older version of the ISO, either for data center or for standard, because,
Checking your temp folder.
or
You
downloads?
see, right? Then that's usually where we put the SOs and then we can motion keys to this class.
Hello, Milan.
No.
That's not it.
Greeting.
Yes, while they're doing that, I thought I would mention that I know the timeline for the module 1 assessment was kind of tight. We did extend the deadline. If you were scrambling to get something in there and you just like a do-over, you can tell me to, you know, clear your entry. And then till 11:59 p.m. tomorrow, Saturday, you've got a little more breathing room. I didn't mean to rush people, but we were trying to get everybody on board as fast as possible. So the reconciliation and retake could be done before the end of September.
Got it.
Yeah, okay. So there you have it. I would encourage you, when I post this YouTube out on Blackboard, that you watch the early segment, because there was a little bit of fun stuff going on with the WTF corner of our digital universe right there. See that thing right there?
Is this it? No, I think it's what's downloading right now, right?
Is it?
Okay.
It's what's downloaded. Yeah.
Yes, it's downloading right now.
Okay, I might have this on a thumb drive. But by the time I walk to the office, get the thumb drive, and then you transfer it,
Yeah.
we're running a little short. So here's what we'll do. We are going to set the stage for the install and configuration. We're going to take the necessary steps that Jadel needs to take in order for this DNS machine to be stable and reliable, bulletproof, okay? One of the first things that you have to learn about virtual machines is that when you're configuring the hard drive, the VHD, you have one of two options, right? Two options. And by the way, I'm gonna get the participants list updated before I forget. So, you can configure what's called a fixed VHD, and then the other option. Does anybody know about the other option? Anybody speak to the other option?
Dynamic?
Dynamic is correct. Has anyone ever heard that term before? Dynamic versus, right?
Yep.
So what's the difference? If you're doing something for production, meaning people are going to depend on it, you want it to run all the time, you can do snapshots in that environment, but the snapshots take a lot of space because you're taking a snapshot of a very large VHD file. That's the trade-off. If you're doing research and development, if you're doing code testing, if you want to blow your machine up 5 times, right? This is like Mythbusters on a Code Warrior level, right? Everybody familiar with Mythbusters? Okay, so Mythbusters on a Code Warrior level, right? Then what you're going to do is put dynamic VHDs in there, and you probably wondered, why does Kentop always insist on fixed? Well, that's because I'm usually using my virtual machines for a serious purpose upon which other people depend. Like, I don't know, students trying to log in remotely to finish a solution, or, you know, me demonstrating in front of a live audience. Those aren't the kind of things I want to spitball with, right? But your snapshots are dramatically more efficient if you have dynamic virtual hard disks. The trade-off is that Jadel is going to have to sacrifice about 48 gigabytes of his hard disk space in order to provision a simple standard server VM where we can translate or forklift that over to a server. So what I'd like to know is whether or not he has, oh, now the good news is, Jadel, we are going to move this virtual machine over to another virtual box host.
Okay.
So temporarily, what we want to do is, and this is what you're going to do when you're creating your own DNS machine, okay? Now, early next week, when this DNS machine is running, I'm going to finish the process. So what's going to happen is that after Jadel builds his VHD, I'm going to bring a thumb drive in here. Jadel's going to copy the VHD, and he doesn't have to worry about the ISO because I have it.
Okay.
We'll build this thing over the weekend. I will record the session where the machine is built. On Monday morning, we're going to show you how to properly apply the activation key using a special command. And then what we'll do is provision this thing. So we'll finish the process and we'll kind of break up the segments of the DNS build, the DNS server build. And the first thing I want Jadel to do right now is to open up his virtual box. Now, Jadel, I'm going to ask you a crazy question. It's a simple question. It's kind of a silly question. Did you complete the optimizing your personal technology thing?
Yes.
Okay, he says yes. We're about to find out just how
True that is.
well he did. What I'd like you to do is open up your virtual box management. Yeah, your virtual box manager. And what I'd like you to do is to go over to the tools section, I believe. Yeah, and what I'd like you to do is to select the bullets where it says tools and see if there's something in there called file manager or media. That's what you want. Oh, good. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Nah, screw that. Okay, all right. So full disclosure here. When you're using VirtualBox, it likes to use VDI. If we're going to be using this virtual machine in a variety of contexts, you have a choice. If you know that it's going to forever be in the VirtualBox realm, then you can accept the defaults, use this tool, and create a VDI-based fixed virtual hard disk. If it's going to be moved and transplanted between, I don't know, Azure environments, which is Microsoft, or Windows clients like Windows 11, or Windows servers on a host,
It can't be a VDI.
VHDs tend to be more of a universal format. So what I would suggest is that we try to build this with a VHDX instead of a VDI. Now that could be a mistake. Full disclosure, this new July 2023 implementation of Server 2022 may, I don't know, it may not play nice with VirtualBox, and then VirtualBox has to have a bunch of other updates and fixes and patches, and now we're dealing with 7.3.10 instead of 7.0.10 in VirtualBox because there are too many people that can't run their servers because they decided to use a universal open source format instead of the proprietary format that Larry Ellison is using to buy more Hawaiian islands. I'm sorry, I'm probably gonna have to edit that portion of the YouTube video out before I post it in a public forum and he sees it, or more importantly, his school of sharp-teethed lawyers see it. Oh, but might I add that Larry Ellison rocks in the yacht regatta realm, and he really does a good job claiming trophies. He's a nice guy, actually. He just has this thing about beating Bill Gates.
I don't see that happening.
You know the industry on the rest of the story and all that insider stuff. And to be honest, there's lots of very positive, cool things about Oracle. Don't pay any attention to the numerous class action lawsuits that he has against education institutions for wanting to use another database backend besides his Oracle when the price goes through the roof, which, by the way, makes him very, very rich and allows him to buy Hawaiian Islands. Yeah, I'm flirting, tempting fate here, but don't worry, Larry Ellison. Next week, Bill Gates. The week after that, Jeff Bezos. And then let's not forget Elon Musk. Okay, so for the titans of industry, you got thick skins, you ought to be able to take a joke. This is intended as a joke, but every now and then I'm going to kind of spotlight the titans of industry and call out an interesting fact about them that you can look up online that's basically available in the public domain. So shouldn't be a problem. Do not repeat my behavior without doing your homework and making sure that what you talk about in a social network context of any sort is not backed up by information in the public domain. Okay. All right, so here's what we want to do. With the time remaining, and then we're going to close, and this is going to run in the background. If you could, sir, please open File Explorer and then run where it says this PC, right click and manage. Manage. There we go. This is going to invoke the Microsoft Management Console, or MMC, called Computer Management. The Computer Management MMC. If you would please select the Disk Management. And what I want you to do is to note how the menus in the upper left corner have changed. If you would, sir, please select Action. Okay. Select the C drive, please. Yeah, now select Action. There we go. Notice that when he had the other partition selected and it wasn't part of the Windows operating system, he couldn't do that. Let's create a VHD. And let's create a VHDX. And let's make it a fixed size instead of dynamic. And then let's make it, if you could open up your calculator and multiply 48 by 1024, please. And observe. No, don't put it in there. Not yet. Look behind you on the disk manager. Do you not see extra partitions that are hidden that also take up space? If you want a disk that's legitimately 48 gigabytes large, you have to account for those little extra partitions behind the dialog box. There you go, slide the dialog box. Everybody see that? Recovery partition. You see that behind there? It's winking at you. It's got a blue streak. Healthy something or other on the left side, and recovery. Yeah, health partition, EFI, and recovery. Yeah, those things take up extra space. You want to account for that, because when you partition this to install a server, it's going to do the same thing, and you're going to say, oh, but I have 48 gigs. No, you don't. It's going to take up some of that space. So let's add in your calculator 1024, just for good measure. There we go. That's the magic number we entered. Go ahead and enter that in your megabytes, 50176. And then let's hit browse and select a location in your, I don't know, temp folder. How's that?
Sure thing.
Okay. All right. And let's call this, oh, this is important. If we're christening a machine
The name
that's going to live in the annals of UVI virtual machine history, you got to pick a good name, a juicy name, not so provocative that you attract hackers, but can you provide a name, sir, based on a popular character from your own personal experience? Could be a gaming character, could be a movie character, could be a superstar of legend in the music world, or just keep it away from the adult industry, please. We don't want to do that kind of stuff. Just saying, NSFW, we got to practice what we preach, right? In fact, even mentioning that is probably going to get me into trouble. But the reality is, in cyber, you're going to run into that. And the truth is, sometimes when you do network forensics, you're going to find out that people ought to get a hotel room. There, I got that off my chest. Yeah, for the last 25 years, every single year, despite the sexual harassment cases that we run into and we have to endure every single year, and we have to sign off on a form that says, yes, I understand that I have to abide by competent, best practice treatment of my fellow employees. There is some knucklehead that decides to, I don't know, let their idle fingers do the walking, and sooner or later in the network forensic world, you're gonna run into some wooka wooka wooka. There's no other way to say it. And yeah, we're gonna deal with that in a later segment, in a later module in network forensics. So who said that network forensics can't be sexy? And with that, we will change the channel. If you could, sir, what is the name? Sissel. All right, let's make it all lowercase, put a dash and put a C, please. Dash C. And yeah, just like that, hit save. And there we have it. Now you should be able to say okay, and away we go. And this will conclude this portion, this segment of our class. We will record a separate portion independently over the weekend, and then pick up the trail on Monday to provision the DNS role. After we have applied the activation key, I will do that in a separate manner so that we don't divulge his activation key, because we don't want half of the Philippines using his activation key.
This activation key.
Okay, but we will show you the command to utilize and apply the activation key after the build. You'll see that his laptop is actually working pretty quickly. We're at 42%. We might actually have a decent thing here. Let's see where we are with the fresh download of the operating system.
Oh, whoa, almost out.
And by the way, I have another class at hard stop 10 o'clock, and I have to reboot this machine because, yeah. All right.
We are moving. Wow, this is with like something else downloading at the same time.
Yeah, it might be a good idea if you kind of sat to the side until this download finished, because there's only about 20 minutes left. How's your VHDX status going? Now, if you ever wondered how to make sure that this is really one file, I have a recommendation for you. Let's pretend that Jadel did actually do the optimization technology. Optimize my personal technology. But some time has passed, and there have been updates, and there have been other things going on. So now there's some fragmentation there. One thing we could do is copy this VHDX to a thumb drive or an external hard drive, and then put it on the other machine first, and then that's just one chunk. If we've gone ahead and done that on a server where there isn't personal stuff in the mix. I'm not making any comments on the myriad of Discord and other icons I see now on your system.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry
Pay
about
no
it.
attention. Pay no attention to the wizard behind the curtain. Yeah. Okay.
Studio, my boy studio.
All right. Well, there it is. Unallocated. Now he could format this NTFS. He could do that in advance. That would be really cool, because then the install for the OS would happen much faster, lightning fast, especially on a fire-breathing dragon kind of host. So he could right-click that, the unallocated part. He could initialize it. He could use GUID. So use initialize, then select GPT for GUID partition table instead of master boot record, because you can do larger files when you have that. He could go ahead and do that and then create a new simple volume. And then when he creates the volume, he can actually go next. Yeah. He can use the default size, because this is going to be used for a server working general file system stuff in a server context. So he's not using it to store virtual hard disks. It is a virtual hard disk, meaning it's like any other server. So instead of using an allocation size that's ginormous, go ahead and hit next. He's going to select default, but for the new volume label, you're going to want to use sysl-c. Just for consistency purposes, uncheck the perform a quick format, please. There you go. Hit next, and away we go. Finish. Now, subject matter experts would say, well, that's a waste of time, Professor Kentop, because you know when you install an operating system, depending on what you do and how you do it, you know, that partition might get blown away. Well, if you know what you're doing, then it would save a lot of time. Just quick disclaimer there. And you would actually preserve more of the actual disk capacity instead of losing it to hidden partitions. All right. That's it. We're going to sign off at this point. Thank you for being a willing guinea pig.
No problem.
And we look forward to standing up Sissel in our inaugural debut of the UVI Hall of Fame for Virtual Machines. Woo! Ah! See you Monday. Have a great weekend.